See, I don't want someone to be in the middle with me. I need them to either be a hell yeah or a hell no. I don't want it to be like, that was cool. No, man. Do you want it or not? Like, I'm very binary when it comes to that. And I think more business owners would be better off, for lack of better words. They didn't put themselves in the friend zone. A lot of them just want to linger around until somebody wants to deal with them in the future. And I'm like, no, are we going to do business or not? Or can I meet some other people I can have great conversations with? And I'll let them decide if they want to do business with me. You don't have to make that decision for them. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I think business owners should be a bit more confident in what they do and make people make a decision. Either they're going to help them or they're not.
Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this. And it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. Hey, I'm going to be speaking at a Real Estate and Wealth Builders Conference in Phoenix this May. If you want to come hang out with me and get all your questions answered, plus learn about real estate, check it out. I'm going to put a link and a discount code in the show notes. And if you go back and listen to episode 144, you'll learn more about what it is. We're back again to talk about our favorite subject, making you more profitable. Our guest does a modified version of Profit First that works for him. And that's the key. Make it work for you. Just follow the core principles and adapt it to work the way you work. Struggling? Reach out via email or grab some time on my calendar. By the way, what do you hate doing in your business? Ask yourself, who can do this for you? The reality is, you won't do it. You'll put it off. And it's like a flat tire in your business. It will prevent you from success. So let someone else carry the load. That's our focus for today. One of the biggest issues I see with business owners is inconsistent lead flow and not having a good system in place to measure it and keep it going. We get a bunch of sales and then we get busy delivering on them and we ignore focusing on more sales and marketing. And then when everything is delivered, we wonder why we don't have more sales. That's one of our topics for today. Ron Story Jr. has been a full-time entrepreneur for over 20 years and has been instrumental in the creation, development, and leadership of over 30 companies. Ron went from a struggling insurance salesman to becoming a self-made entrepreneur. Now he lives in Medellin, Colombia. He's the founder of a software company, PitchDB, the world's largest podcast search engine with nearly 3 million hosts. He's also author of the book titled The First 100 Miles, which challenges business owners to recognize the opportunities in front of them and practical ways to grow faster. He started his first business as a kid collecting and recycling aluminum cans so he could get the toys he wants. That drive to solve problems continues today on a larger scale. He's defied the odds and created a life that he could only dream about as a kid. Let's welcome Ron to the show, learn from him, and see what we can implement in our business to make ourselves more profitable. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Ron Story. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so an expat from the U.S. I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois. I currently live in Medellin, Colombia. And back in 2018, I purchased a small data company out of Austin, Texas. And we have converted that business into two separate companies. One is a sales consulting company where we set up sales meetings for people using cold outreach via email. And the second is a software company that's a derivative of that called PitchDB that allows people to book themselves on podcasts like I'm here with you today doing.
Very nice. And you've read Profit First. You do it a little bit differently. Can you share a little bit about what you do?
Well, a lot of my friends would call me a minimalist or an essentialist. And when I read the book, the thing that was most important to me was paying yourself first instead of having like, hey, this is my profit goal for the end of the year. We want to make $200,000. Instead of hoping at the end of the year that I end up with $200,000 left after I pay everyone else. One of the main principles that I took away from the book was divide that $200,000 by 12, and then every month, before you pay any bills, take that out. And the gist of that was we usually figure out how to pay our bills with the limited constraints that we have. So profit is just a constraint on revenue. And if you treat it that way, then you'll always be profitable and you'll figure out how to market better and become more efficient with marketing. But you can't become more efficient with profit. Profit is either there or it isn't. You can't, if you hit your number, you hit your number, but you can't be more efficient with it. I can't squeeze more than $200,000 out of $200,000, right? But I can squeeze more results out of what I'm spending on marketing, what I'm spending on other things within the business. So that's the one thing that I took from it, and I just held on to that part.
Have you ever increased your profit goals over time, or do you always keep them consistent year to year?
No, I increase them every year. And, the main driver of that is the ability to increase sales. So if you can increase sales, and that can be done in several ways, either by driving more sales meetings or just increasing the pricing of your business, of your products and services. You can increase the profitability at usually at zero extra cost, just by selling the same thing at a higher price. Same number of sales meetings, just increase the price by 20%. You'll be surprised. Profits go up by 20%. It's incredible.
They do, but everyone's always afraid to raise prices. You don't seem to have an issue with that.
Well, no, because I think if the product that I'm providing is already a great value and it's already perceived to be under market value, right? So there's price, value, and cost, right? So cost is what it costs me to make it. Price is what I charge everyone else. Value is what they believe it would be worth, right? So I have some flexibility on price as long as my price doesn't outweigh the value, right? And I think we provide a very valuable service that is underpriced in the minds of our consumers so that we can bump it up a bit and not have them complain.
And what I like about when your price is below value, it makes it much easier to sell. Your conversions go up. And so you get more sales because of that. You're not constantly battling.
Yeah, well, I think in every business, right? If I bought this bottle of soda and it's supposed to be like a Red Bull energy drink, but if I paid $8 for it, but it didn't for buying just a Red Bull, I wasted $5. So the probability of me buying another one of these would be very low. So if price is higher than value, you're in trouble already. If price is higher than value, you're in trouble already. If you're charging more than what you're delivering, you're going to have some issues.
So while we're on the subject of profitability, what do you think some of the keys are to profitable business growth?
Well, I think consistency when it comes to lead gen, right? Lead gen and sales are the drivers of everything in a business. I've never seen a business go out of business because they sold too much, right? So as long as you have consistency in your sales and your revenue operations, you should be fine. Most companies are, especially small. I don't have a 300-person company. So I'm speaking to the small entrepreneur. We have 9 employees in my company. So I'm speaking to the folks that have 10 and under, because that's where I live. I'm not going to act as if I'm Warren Buffett with thousands of employees. For us under 10 employees, I find a lot of times we have inconsistent sales operations. So we'll be generating a bunch of leads today. If we don't have the infrastructure in place, we have to stop generating leads in order to fulfill. And then we turn the leads back on, and then we stop to fulfill, and then we turn the leads back on. So a lot of times I have this saying that we don't need more information. We need more infrastructure. A lot of times we just need to build the infrastructure that will allow us to not only sell, but fulfill for our customers on a consistent basis year round. So there shouldn't be months where we generate 200 leads and then months where we generate 0 right behind that, because we're trying to fulfill on the previous ones.
And I think that's a constant battle for business owners is you go out and you sell. Once you sell, now you have to deliver. And so then you stop selling. And then 3 months later, you're like, I have no business. And then they freak out. And then they have to run out and sell. But it really depends on what your lead times are. Sometimes you will end up with some very dry months if that's the way you're doing things or if that's the way your business operates. So how do you manage it so that you're not in that boom bust cycle that so many people tend to be in?
Yeah. So, I believe there's 3 ways to generate any type of lead. One is direct outreach, right? If you're doing B2B, one is direct outreach. The second is referrals. And the third is through partnerships and relationships, right? And if you continue to do the direct outreach consistently, you can throttle that up and down, right? That's one that you can control. You can control how many people you're in contact with, whether it's by phone or email or advertising on a daily basis, right? So you can throttle that to make sure that you're not doing too much or doing too little. That's one that I believe you should never turn off, right? The relationship section of it, not just the referrals, but the relationship, the second group, you can schedule those, right? So I can schedule campaigns with partners every 3 months or every 2 months to make sure that if I have a large influx of customers from a partner, I'll have the time to onboard them and to deliver the services that I promised those partners, promised through that partner relationship. So that doesn't have to be every week. I can throttle those out. So I'm not going through these launches. A lot of businesses are launching every 3 months. I don't want to launch every 3 months. I want to have the basis taken care of and then do these partnership relationships every other month or so. And as far as referrals are, just to cover the last one, I think that it's probably the most underutilized opportunity in a business. Most businesses don't get referral business. They'll say, well, hey, if someone needs this, can you let them know, instead of actively asking for 5 to 10 people that you can introduce yourself to or maybe take out to lunch? My background is as a financial advisor. So I started with a company that only allowed us to do referrals. So I understand the value of being able to ask for someone to recommend my product or service to someone else. So I think that's how you build a consistency. It's with direct outreach that you can throttle up and down where you need it to be, by scheduling out the partner relationship so that you're providing high quality service to those guys that you're partnering with, but also having the consistent referrals that you can always reach back into your back pocket and call on to get sales.
Do you notice that business owners are hesitant to reach out and ask for referrals?
Yes, they are, because they think that they have to provide the service before they can get a referral. But if you provide value in the initial sales meeting, then you're referral worthy already. So if I hop on a sales call with you and I help you to solve a problem, even if it's not concerning my product, I provided value to you. So in my mind, I believe that I'm referral worthy. I should be able to ask, hey, is there anyone else that I should be having great conversations like this with? Just that simple question, right? I didn't ask them to buy from me. I didn't ask them to tell me somebody who could use my service. No, is there anyone else I could have a great conversation like this with? And podcasting is actually one of the best ways to do that.
What do you mean by that?
Because if I'm on your podcast now, right? And if at the end of our conversation, you believe that we've had a great conversation, you're like, man, Ron, you have some really interesting thoughts on how sales operations should work for businesses. At that point, I provided value to you and your audience in my mind, right? So I can say, hey, Rocky, is there anyone else whose podcast you think I should be going on, right? Or you think I can help their audience the same way I was able to help yours? What's wrong with that? That's not offensive. I mean, I didn't ask, do you have anyone else that I could sell this car washing service to? No, man, it's pretty simple. Well, I'll say this. If you don't have a business or a product that you think is referable, you probably have a bad business or a bad product. I'm just not ashamed of what I do. So I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of how it works. And I think we provide a lot of value. I think people should want to do it with us. I think they should want to use my product and service. So I'm not ashamed to ask people to use it.
Do you think business owners are ashamed of the business they do, or they don't believe in themselves, or?
No, I think they're afraid of rejection, right? But I believe that people kind of reflect back to you the energy that you put towards them. So if there's any bit of timidity about what you do, or, man, I think the price may be too high, or I don't know if it's really worth this, then the customer's going to feel that, or the person that you're talking to, they're going to feel that on the other side, and they're going to give you back that same energy. So, but if you go forward with confidence, I believe that they will give you, the same, they'll at least be confident enough to tell you yes or no. See, I don't want someone to be in the middle with me. I need them to either be a hell yeah or a hell no. I don't want it to be like, that was cool. No, man. Do you want it or not? Like, I'm very binary when it comes to that. And I think more business owners would be better off, for lack of better words. They didn't put themselves in the friend zone. A lot of them just want to linger around until somebody wants to deal with them in the future. And I'm like, no, are we going to do business or not? Or can I meet some other people I can have great conversations with? And I'll let them decide if they want to do business with me. You don't have to make that decision for them. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I think business owners should be a bit more confident in what they do and make people make a decision. Either they're going to help them or they're not.
And I remember training years and years ago, and that was a big part of it, was basically to practice the ask. Because if you are asking for a lot of money, you have to be confident to say and make it just sound nonchalant and the expectation. This is what it costs. This is what the investment is. Here's what most people do. And you're right. People do read fear. And I think it's not always a problem for the business owner, but if the business owner has salespeople and the salespeople don't believe in the value or haven't been bought into the value, it becomes very hard for your salespeople to go out and to be able to make that ask as well.
Yeah, that's a hiring and training problem, though. I don't blame the salesperson. I blame the business owner for hiring that salesperson, because we all go through interview processes, and you have to be able to make sure that the self-concept of the salesperson matches the self-concept of the business. And let me tell you what I mean by that. When I was a financial advisor, they used to always tell us that your clients will reflect your income. So whatever you're making, that's what your clients are going to make. So, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty interesting. And they would say, well, whatever you're investing, that's what your clients will invest. So you need to go out and, if you're going to work with clients that you think that should be saving $5 to $10,000 a month, you need to be saving $5 to $10,000 a month so that you can show them that you're living what you're preaching. So when you come from a world of doing $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 rollovers, when I'm saying, hey, I want you to roll over $250,000 to let us manage it, it's kind of easy to sell something that costs $5,000. I've been asking people for $250,000 my whole life. Like, how am I afraid of that? Like, I've been asking people to move their retirement savings over. So to say, hey, yo, you should buy this thing for $2,000. It's kind of like, dude, come on, man. I ain't afraid of that number. The number doesn't scare me. So, but I think that when you talk about salespeople being afraid to ask or being afraid of the value of the business, that's a hiring problem, not a salesperson problem. You hired someone that their self-concept didn't match the business. You would never see a homeless person selling Mercedes-Benz. The self-concept doesn't match.
No, nor would you probably see a low-end car salesperson selling a Mercedes-Benz. It's a very different experience when you walk into that dealership and how you're treated and what the expectations are.
Yeah, it's a different level of character of the salesperson too, though, right? There's certain behaviors. I used an example of when I talk to clients about client experience. If I told you right now, Rocky, have you ever eaten McDonald's before?
I have.
Okay. If I told you right now, close your eyes and imagine what a McDonald's restaurant smells like. You have in your mind what it smells like. We know what it smells like when you walk into a McDonald's, right? Have you ever eaten at a Chili's or an Applebee's before?
I have.
Yeah. If you were to close your eyes, you would imagine what they smell like. And it smells totally different than McDonald's. And if you've gone to a Ruth's Chris before, you know that it doesn't have any of those odors that a Chili's or McDonald's would have. Ruth's Chris will have, at the worst, you will smell a steak. But when you go into Chili's, you smell dishwater from them washing the tables. And when you go into McDonald's, you smell fries and grease and all this other stuff from their stuff, right? So a lot of times in the client experience, we promise a Ruth's Chris experience, but when our clients make contact with us, they smell McDonald's. And that incongruence causes a problem. That's why they don't trust that we can deliver on the final product, because the sales experience didn't match up with what the product being offered was.
What are some of those little differences that clients might see in a B2B realm or even in a B2C realm that signal those that aren't what we might normally think about?
Yep. So whether it's transactional or consultative, right? The lower end sales situations are usually transactional, right? It's a lot more take than what it is get. And then as you move up, it becomes more relationship based. So if you were to go into, let's use cars since we were talking about that. If you go to the local used car place, the guy just wants to hustle you into a car that day. If you go into a Mercedes dealership, first thing they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, have you ever owned a Mercedes before? And then they're going to look you up to see if you've ever been to any dealership across the country to get a Mercedes-Benz serviced. And then they're not going to say, hey, Ron, they're going to say, hey, Mr. Story. So the level of, when you go into the dealership, they have leather furniture, they have wood all over the place. It looks great. It's totally different than your local transactional based car dealership. So in the middle level, now it's more like you're sitting in someone's living room. So it's more relationship based. And then when you go up to the higher level, the Rolls Royce, the Mercedes, the Lamborghini exclusive dealerships, now it's as if you're in someone's private office because you're no longer talking in front of a cubicle. The people have actual offices with doors they can close. And it's not just the finance guy. So the more transactional the experience is, the less high end it feels to the customer. So when you think of some of the larger businesses, it's all about service. Look at Nordstrom. You can take anything back to Nordstrom, even if you didn't buy it from there, because they're all about service. They understand that they have to maintain that relationship to be able to sell that lady an $8,000 wedding dress down the road, or to, be able to sell something high end, sell $500 men's shoes. You got to get a whole nother level of relationship and conversation with the salesperson.
It's funny, in all of those examples that you're giving, price no longer becomes a consideration, so to speak. It's not something that's really talked about. When you walk into the low-end dealership, it's like, hey, this is my monthly payment I can afford. When you walk into the Mercedes dealership, you're not having those conversations.
Yeah, that's why it's more transactional. And the person who goes into a Mercedes dealership, unless they're like young and not understanding what they're getting into, they've already decided on what car they're going to get. They're really just deciding who they want to service them. And there's an old technique that one of the guys, I've owned several of those cars, and I went in one time and I just moved to St. Louis, back from, I was living in Bloomington, Illinois, and I went in to get a windshield wiper replacement. And the guy said, hey, you just moved back into town? I said, yeah, I just moved into town. He looks in the car, looks in the computer, and he says, man, you take really good care of your cars. Do you want me to go ahead and schedule your service B for 60 days from now? I see it's coming up. You want to go ahead and get it on the books? Well, this is a $700 oil change. And I'm like, dude, but I love the technique that he used. He built me up as a great car owner. Hey, you take really good care of your cars. So if I said, don't schedule this oil change, now I don't seem like I live up to what he sold me, right? Now I don't really take good care of my cars because I won't even schedule the oil change on the new car. So that selling to Superman type of technique is really what you learn as you move up selling more high-end things, because you start to learn that it's not about, can I afford it? It's about, how am I going to look to everyone else when I buy this thing? So nobody buys a Mercedes because it rides well. They buy a Mercedes for the oohs and ahs they get when they pull up to their friends and they say, holy crap, that is a nice S-Class. Like, I've never even been in one of those. Can I sit in it? So the salesperson knows that. So they play towards that. But those are things that you learn as you you sell more high-end things. You learn that it's not about price anymore. It's about self-concept and ego and, other people's perceptions of it.
Very much it is. And we're already telling ourselves a story, and you got to play into that.
100%.
So one of the things we like to talk about occasionally is people go into business to enjoy life, but too often we get stuck in the business rat race. So how do we make that shift? Is there a mindset shift so that we can build a business and life of our dreams?
Well, I think all of our dreams are fueled by one thing, money. So most people will sacrifice their dreams and the lifestyle in order to build the business that they want. And they believe that if I build the business, then I'll be able to live this lifestyle and things of that sort. But they don't prioritize selling something that has a high enough profit margin or building the systems, making the investments into the systems in order to consistently provide that profit margin. And then they can take it out on a monthly, on a first in, first out is what we would say in financial advising, FIFO. So we would do the first money in to be the first money out into the profit account. If you do that, then now you're in control of the business versus the business being in control of you. So I think that that's where it starts. A lot of us believe that the business will help us to design a life, but we never design the business that would give us that life that we wanted. So I think that that's like one of the biggest things. I listened to an interview from a guy named Rob Dyrdek, and he just talked about it from the perspective that every business that he has been a part of, he knew what they were going to sell for down the road because they designed from the end. If we want to sell for $50 million, we know that this type of business has a 4-time multiple. So we need to be doing whatever 50 million divided by 4 is, $12 million a month. $12 million of profit a year. And then he built that backwards into the business. I think a lot of us, we spend some time doing business planning, but not a lot of time doing business design. I love to ask people, hey, tell me in one sentence what your business does. And 8 sentences later, they apologize to me, right?
In one sentence, we help you to have a growing and more profitable business. That's what we do. And this business was reverse engineered to fit my lifestyle. And one of the things that we do in our Profit Blueprint course is we do 2 things. The first exercise is how much do you need to make to cover your current living expenses, and then make sure that the business matches that. And then the second thing that we do is say, okay, what are your aspirational needs? And then how do we reverse engineer the business metrics and what you need to generate to be able to achieve that? And it's like you said, you have to reverse engineer these. You can't just go out into business and hope for the best. When you've got a clear target, it's so much easier to hit it. And it's so much easier to answer the question, is this taking me closer or further away from my target? Is it allowing me to get there faster, or is it going to slow me down?
Yeah. So, I think that that's one of the biggest things that we see all the time, which is we're excited about the business side of things, but the business ends up draining our lives. And it's a huge investment. A lot of times we hear people say, well, man, you can start a business with $100. You can start with $100, but it's going to cost you some other things in order to succeed. So if you only have $100 to start, you're probably going to be investing more time out of your life to make that business work versus the person that starts the same business with $500,000. Now they can buy other people's time that can work for them in order to design that business. I'm actually a big fan of buying businesses versus starting them because I can go into that business right from the beginning, understanding what the profit is. Before I even get involved in it, I already know what our profitability is. And then I can see if the activities of that business that are required for me are conducive for my lifestyle. I like working from home. I like having my son be able to bang on the door and see him when he comes home from school. But that's not a luxury for everyone. So I think that business design is just as important as business planning.
And I think that is one of the kind of aha moments I had where a lot of people say the smartest thing to do is to go buy a business that's at least generating 2 million. Because getting from 0 to 2 million is hard, but once the business hits that level, it becomes easier to maintain it. Now everyone goes, well, how am I supposed to afford a $2 million business? And I mean, that's not our topic today, but there are many ways to buy that business with 2 million in revenue for a fraction of that, and through a whole bunch of different ways. And maybe one day we'll do a whole episode on how you do that. But it gets you out of the struggle parts of the business, and you buy a business that's already kind of on plane and moving along nicely. And now you can just tweak it and make it better.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier than what most people assume, because there's one thing that most people never consider that's always available when you buy a business, which is owner financing, and allowing the owner to help him make the transition. So if you go into it understanding that you're helping the owner alleviate a problem, which is the business, they may need to retire or something of that sort. That can be one of the largest funding sources for the acquisition of that business. And, a lot of times they stay on as managers, so they can keep running it for the next 3 years or whatever until they're ready to get out. And so I think a lot of times we will fight for our weaknesses. A lot of times as business owners and people, humans, we argue for our weaknesses. So instead of saying, how can I do it? We say, well, I could never do that because I don't know how to do it. And that's not the way to go. You should be asking the question. I think your book in the back, Who Not How, is a great question to ask after you've asked how. How can I do this? And then who do I need to help me to do it is the next part. And a lot of us, we struggle to even believe that it's possible. So to think, okay, well, I want to have a software company that's doing $30 million a year in annual recurring revenue. Well, how? What needs to be in place for that to happen? How many employees do I need? What does our growth rate need to be? All of those things need to be thought about. And I think sometimes we argue for our weaknesses and just say, oh, is that possible to buy a business? It's not possible. I couldn't do that. I don't know. No. How? Figure it out. You didn't know how to walk, but you learned. You didn't know how to talk, but you learned. Right? So we learn.
So true. And right now they're talking about the silver tsunami, which is a lot of older businesses, owners are retiring and their kids don't want the business. And so there's going to be many, many businesses for sale and many, many opportunities. If people would like to learn more about you and your services, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. The first thing they can do is I'm on Ron Story Jr., RONSTORY JR on all platforms. So you can find me on any platform with that. And if they are looking for more sales meetings, they can go to our company, 5contacts.com. And we will help them set up their first 20 sales meetings for free. So if they go there, we'll help them to get more sales meetings so that they can make more profit and start to implement the things that you consult about.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How do you feel about cold outreach or outreach in general? Let's face it, we are the best salespeople in our company because it's our baby. Find the right balance to keep sales moving forward. You can never stop the marketing flywheel because it's too hard to restart. Also, make sure you own the engine. Otherwise, you are always dependent on someone else to make you successful. I just want to reassure you that every business owner struggles in some part of their business. It's normal, and that's why we need help. We don't have to do this alone. I belong to 3 groups that provide me help, and I get outside help for some areas of my business because it's not worth my time. What about you? Have you designed your business around your life, or is your life wrapped around what your business needs? It's a major part of what we do for our clients. Make sure the business is serving you, which is why you need to make sure that you are not using more resources, but are being more resourceful and focusing on the bottom line.
If you'd like for us to be a part of your profitability journey, we have different programs available ranging from do-it-yourself to one-on-one coaching. Our course, The Profit Blueprint, teaches you everything you need to know to transform your profitability. There are 3 different tiers ranging from DIY to done with you so that businesses of all sizes can get the support that's best. Join the waitlist in the show notes to get more information and be a part of the next cohort. If you want a done for you service, you can hire us as your chief profitability officers. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $10 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
This episode of the Profit Answer Man podcast is brought to you by SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you've discovered us via the network, then I hope you enjoy today's show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss our episodes. Remember to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about how to live the ultimate life and be the best business owner you can be. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.